Our caveman ancestors were a whole lot more advanced than you might have thought. Ever since their brains began to develop to the point where tools were being used to get the job done, they slowly continued to get smarter and smarter. Eventually, they created things that could be used to hunt down giant woolly mammoths and create artwork from their bones. Some of these artifacts you're about to see can be anywhere from millions of years old up until the rise of agriculture. Here are the most mysterious prehistoric artifacts. But first, we'd like to give a quick shout out over here to this person for leaving us this comment. We appreciate your insight and we'd like to hear all your comments, so keep it up. Number 11. Venus of Hohenfels. Possibly the oldest figurine that depicts a human form is what's known as the Venus of Hohenfels. It sort of looks like a turkey with implants, but it's still a valuable piece of prehistoric artwork that gives us some knowledge of what cavemen were capable of about 40,000 years ago. It was first found in 2008 in the Hohenfels cave system. They found some other stuff on this list that we'll get onto later. There have been a few debates as to what exactly they meant to represent, but it's likely some type of fertility charm. It also proves that people were fascinated with boobs about 40,000 years ago. It was created by a species of humans known as Cro-Magnons and is made from mammoth ivory. It's a mystery how it remarkably survived such a long period of time. It's also currently being kept at a museum in Germany for safekeeping. Number 10. World's first sewing needle. Around 50,000 years ago, we began to notice two distinct types of humans that were results of different types of evolution. They were the Denisovans and the Neanderthals. It's known that Europeans tended to have more Neanderthal DNA, while Asians tend to have more Denisovan DNA. It's believed that modern-day Tibet holds on to a decent amount of genes inherited from the Denisovans, which allows for them to resist higher altitudes. One of the first practical oldest artifacts left over from this period of time was a sewing needle that would suggest that these prehistoric people knew how to stitch things up. It was found right here in the Denisova cave in Siberia, made from bird bone. The Denisovans eventually crossed paths with the Neanderthals, and eventually it led to the Neanderthal-Denisovan hybrid. Although the two were genetically similar enough to produce offsprings, they were extremely different in about every other way imaginable. Number 9. Lion Man of Hohenstein Stattel. Considered to be the oldest piece of figurative art in the world, the Lion Man of Hohenstein Stattel was put together about 35,000 to 40,000 years ago. First discovered by a geologist in 1939, the research on the object was delayed due to the beginning of World War II. The sculpture was basically forgotten about until an archaeologist named Joachim Hahn began to try to solve the puzzle. The artifact was reassembled because it was badly broken in many pieces. Displaying the head of the lioness and the body of a human, it's also one of the first zoomorphic sculptures ever created. This means that it combined both human and animal elements. It's also made of mammoth ivory and probably would have looked a little bit better a couple dozen thousand years ago. Many scientists were quite confused by how they managed to make this and with what tools they used. Number 8. Bison licking insect. This prehistoric carving came from the Paleolithic era about 20,000 years ago and was discovered in Dordogne, France. It features a steppe bison that was more common during the Ice Age, using his tongue to help himself out with an insect bite. It's made from reindeer antler and shows quite a bit of detail in comparison to some others on this list. This also gives us a good idea about what kind of animals would have been around in France and Europe at that time. Number 7. Cave art. The cave paintings in Lascaux, France depict Paleolithic paintings of some type of animals that were hunted. This cave complex in southwestern France is estimated to date back 17,300 years ago and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The cave contains 2,000 images, mainly of humans, abstract figures, and animals. Many of the colors of paints that were used were from mineral pigments, mostly containing iron oxide. This explains the orange rusty color you see here. Another interesting cave painting is found in Argentina known as Cueva de las Manos. This literally translates to the Cave of the Hands. You have to admit, this is much cooler than some examples of modern art we have today. Number 6. Bone flutes. Evidence from cave paintings suggests that cavemen enjoyed the acoustic qualities of their caves, especially for singing and playing the flute in this case. The flute we see here was carved from mammoth ivory about 42,000 years ago, but in other cases have been made from vulture bones as well. Some believe that these instruments were used for religious ceremonies. Cavemen were trained to use their voice to navigate their way through the caves with echolocation, similar to a bat. Music's been around since prehistoric times, ever since they realized that they can create such certain noises with bones, shells, stones, and of course their voices. With all the echoes from the cave, it must have been an interesting thing to hear their style of music. Number 5. Olive oil discovery. It's truly interesting, especially from the point of a nutritionist, what exactly mankind ate thousands of years ago. Many people survived on eating the minimum amounts of calories necessary, therefore relying on extremely nutritious foods most of the time. Ancient people in Israel as far back as 8000 BC began domesticating olive trees. Most researchers believe that olive oil was a staple food in the Mediterranean, especially during the Roman era. But this goes to show us that olive oil has been around for quite some time. This pot here was found with residue of olive oil near the lower Galilee region of northern Israel. This is the oldest known discovery of olive oil, but there's a good chance it was widespread across the Mediterranean. Number 4. 13,000-year-old brewery. Possibly the oldest brewery in the world was discovered in Israel, and physical evidence concluded extensive knowledge of brewing techniques by nomadic people. It was found in the Rockefet Cave in the Carmel Mountains in September of 2018. The archaeological team found various grains which are commonly used for brewing beer, such as barley, wheat, oats, and legumes. Some are even beginning to believe that the reasons for the beginning of agriculture was to brew beer, and food was just secondary. It was used for various rituals, during feasts, and for social gatherings, kind of like how it is in modern times. Number 3. The Shiger Idol. This photo we see here shows the Shiger Idol that's actually the oldest known wooden statue in the world. It's even twice as old as the Great Pyramid of Egypt. This remarkably preserved piece of art stands 9.2 feet tall. It was discovered in a bog in 1894 at a depth of 13 feet underground in the Ural Mountains of Russia. There are 6 wooden faces carved into it, which would be a depiction of the ancestors of the ones who carved it. There are many zigzag-like patterns that you see here in this photo, which some people claim to represent the double helix formation found in DNA. However, there seems to be no way to actually prove that. Others claim it represents a snake, but it's been a mystery for archaeologists since it's been discovered. Number 2. The Acheulean stone tools. Used about 1.6 million years ago by the Homo erectus humans, these are some of the first tools ever created. Also known as a hand axe, these were extensively used throughout early human history up until the early Stone Age, which was around 300,000 years ago. The axes get their name from the archaeological dig site called Saint Acheulean in France around the late 1860s. Other stone axes such as this were found in places such as Africa, Asia, and Europe. But the oldest ones were found in the country of Kenya. This very crude form of technology would have been pretty much the only thing that they could have used for tasks like scraping meat off a wild mammoth, for example. Having the mental ability to craft any kind of tool and use it to their advantage for any animal is a great accomplishment. And number 1. A spear thrower. Being a hunter-gatherer back in the Stone Age was certainly no easy task. Luckily, the discovery of fire, though, if a caveman were lucky enough to find food sources, would have some quality barbecues. Imagine taking down a massive woolly mammoth with only sticks and stones. The early Stone Age people used sharpened sticks and eventually used an arrow or spear with sharpened flint or bone. Here in this photo, we see a spear thrower that's elaborately decorated, which would have been able to fling spears at a high speed. It's also made of mammoth bone and is believed to actually depict a mammoth, ironically.
So what do you guys think was the most mysterious? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.